On December 18th, 2012, the set of Fox and Friends...
Oh, no, I know this.
Do you?
No.
Do you really? The set of Fox and Friends was both festive and somber. So it was festive because December 18th, it's just a few days before Christmas.
Nearly the non-denominational holiday period.
Well, this is Fox and Friends, so it's not non-denominational. They're being very explicit. This is Christmas.
I was using sarcasm font.
So, the hosts, two men and a woman, they're sitting on the couch and there's a tree behind them. There's silver-painted twigs. There's tinsel. There's all kinds of Christmas decorations. So it's festive
lovely
for Christmas, but it's somber because 4 days earlier, something actually really terrible happened.
2012.
2012. This is not a guessing game.
I got 2 flat tyres.
That wasn't it.
Oh, no, I'm out.
That wasn't. It was of terrible things to happen. It's close to the top.
Oh.
And it's an agreed terrible. So 4 days earlier, a gunman had stormed into an elementary school in Newtown, Connecticut, and killed 26 people, of whom were 20, 6, and 7-year-olds. It's commonly known as the Sandy Hook massacre.
I was going to say.
At the end of the event, the shooter took his own life. Now, what happened next? It comes from an article I'm going to read a bit from today, but I'll read some other things as well. This one's by an Esquire article by Luke Dittrich. And I'll read from this directly because it's kind of, let's get it precisely how
I want the full mood, yeah.
So, all 3 of the hosts look sad, but Gretchen Carlson looked the saddest.
How could you tell?
Well, this is Luke saying it. She does wipe tears. She wipes tears from her eyes.
So the prostheses that were dribbling some water into her
Don't hate
fake
Fox
eyeballs.
News just yet. Don't hate them just yet.
I'll hate them later. Okay.
Hate them later.
Okay.
So they're sitting there on one side of the screen, and you can see. Oh, there's a photo for you. They've got a guest. They're interviewing a guest via satellite.
Is that Corey Bernardi?
It does look like Corey Bernardi. Dark blazer, button-down shirt with blue stripes, middle-aged and handsome.
Barely repressed homosexuality. That's Corey Bernardi, not him.
Probably yes. Probably no. Yeah. I don't know. But handsome in an old-fashioned way, which to me means barely repressed. With tan skin and thick hair parted on the right.
Ooh.
Now, the banner below the video had something inspirational, or it said, "Hope is not lost." Just after the Sandy Hook massacre, neurosurgeon says that heaven is real.
Oh, good God.
Dr. Alexander, Gretchen Carlson said, if people don't know your story, you were ill. You were in a coma. You left this earth for a week. You were in heaven. And then you wrote about your experiences there. And you were told that you were supposed to come back to the earth. She paused. She looked into the camera and then looked up towards the studio ceiling.
Where Jesus lives.
In the studio ceiling, in the studio upstairs, and rocked slightly forward. As people are grappling with the horrible nature of this tragedy, she said, her voice crackling, her lower lip trembling.
No.
Will these children forget when they're in heaven what happened to them? Now, your emotions right now. Your emotions. Well, yeah. So no, as Dietrich noticed, this is an unusual question. You can imagine maybe.
Sorry, understatement of the podcast.
This is it's Fox and Friends, but you can imagine. Okay, who are you going to pose this question? Will these children forget when they are in heaven what happened to them? Would you pose it to the priest, a bishop, a pope? The Pope, a priest, a bishop.
Or a 5-year-old's birthday party. What's the difference? I mean, the number of things she's leapt past to say that's the question. Let's be clear. When they're there, living or whatever, existing, will they forget the...
Don't worry. Don't worry. He wasn't troubled by the question.
Why would he be?
He's
been there.
Well, indeed.
He knows.
He was presented as more qualified to answer this than just about anyone.
Sweet.
So the argument was that he had been there. He was, a renowned neurosurgeon, a man of science at the summit of the secular world. So he answered. He said, well, they will know what happened, Alexander said, with a hint of sadness in his own eyes for the moment. But they will not feel pain. His voice was southern and smooth, soft and warm. The shots of the studio and the satellite feed faded away, and a heartbreaking tableau faded in grid of photographs. 14 children, just 6 and 7 years old, each smiling, each now the viewer knew, dead. Alexander's voice, soothing, heartfelt, poured on. They will feel the love and cherishing of their being back there.
These fucking inexcusable monsters of shit. I'm sorry, but my God. I've got to save some angry? I can. I've got more.
And they will know. Oh. And they will know that they changed the world. Now, studio came back in. People were back on there. And we turned from Gretchen to one of the other hosts, this guy here, Brian Kilmeade.
Kilmeade, yeah.
He was a compact and gruff guy. He's got a sheaf of papers in front of him, and he shuffles them a little bit like an attorney. And he also asks an unusual question for a television journalist.
Why are you such a dick, dude?
No, he didn't ask that. He didn't ask that.
Yeah.
And so he prefaced it again, like Gretchen had done, with a little bit about Dr. Alexander's background. Mm-hmm. So, Dr. Alexander, your book, and you're a neurosurgeon. You never believed it until it happened to you, and you were brain dead for a week, and your friends who work in the business say, there's no way you could have possibly come back. There was no activity there. Where is the shooter?
What?
Alexander nodded along as the man posed the question again and answered without pausing. Mm-hmm. The shooter is in a place of reviewing his own life, he said, while the camera showed Gretchen Carlson wiping the tears from her eyes. Oh. It's a very real phenomenon of reliving all the life events of one's life and reliving the pain and suffering that we've handed to others from their point of view. Welcome to the Wholesome Show, the science podcast for people who sit up the back of the classroom
and scream like banshees at shit like this. It's going to be awesome. And also ask the questions that you don't want to.
Yeah, indeed. The Wholesome Show is brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science.
And Heaven.
Public Awareness of Heaven. I'm Will Grant.
I'm Dr. Roderick Griffin. I am a fucking atheist, Lamberts.
Oh, is this... look, maybe this is pro-atheist. I'm raising questions here.
Good. Good.
One thing I will say... did I say I'm Will Grant? I think I did.
Someone said it. I don't know who. Let's not name names.
In the camps here, there may be religious people, there may be atheists, but there are charlatans. But I'm not going...
That's true. They're not... You don't have to be one or the other. You can be a charlatan in either camp.
I'm not going straight for the charlatans here. This is not about the charlatans.
I'm just trying to, look, because you know what the story is, I don't, but you probably didn't realise this might get me excited. I know, just a coincidence, right?
Look, I just got to say, listen, I was researching this story, and when I came across the hypocrisy of a right-wing television network seeking to deal with the Sandy Hook massacre by getting some guy who...
knows heaven is real?
Knows heaven is real to say, yes, they're in heaven. To make it all okay. To make it...
They really... That's reaching a level of chunder that I didn't know they did. That's impressive.
It hurt me when I read that. I was just like...
Should we talk about gun laws? No time to get political. However, heaven exists. Here's a neuroscientist.
Yeah, here's a guy who's been to heaven. And are they in heaven?
Yes. So shut up.
They didn't even ask if they...
Do you know what? Did they move on to, you know what? Those kids were lucky they got shot.
Oh, my God. Shut up. That's a very different topic.
Not really.
Well, it's a different topic to what I'm
yeah, but that's a small leap for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to seem harsh, squeeze out artificial tear and pause meaningfully, but maybe they're in a better place. So maybe that the deceased shooter did them a favour.
Maybe. They didn't... they didn't have time to commit sins.
Anyway, it's your story. I'm just enjoying myself.
It's not... Well, look, it connects to that, but that made me very mad when I read that.
I can't imagine why.
Near-death experiences, eh? Okay, so...
blissful, awesome, real.
What... Have you had one?
No, not quite.
I mean, I know this is.
No, I haven't had near death. I had
reveal that you were the Christmas pudding.
I did. No, I had a moment when I was exploding a number of years back after an awesome Van Halen concert. See you, Eddie. I didn't have a near death experience, but I had a moment where I was in a hospital with all kinds of weird shit going on and buzzers. And there was bells and whistles and a whole bunch of people grabbing me saying, And I looked up and I saw my heartbeat was ridiculously high, my blood pressure was ridiculously low, and all a blur. And I remember thinking, that's a bit lame, but I didn't feel particularly bad. So I felt calm, but I didn't have a.
Hey, you might. I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you 1 on the Grayson scale.
Hell yeah.
Well, maybe there's a little bit more. We might get to the.
But it wasn't whole like I'm definitely going to die. But I thought, I think maybe I'm gonna. They looked at me and they said, "Don't worry about that." And I thought, that means I should probably be worried about it. But in my head, I didn't. Emotionally, I was like, it was more curiosity. Like, well,
I get it. Okay, so you're a little bit detached.
Quite detached.
Yeah.
Not horrified. I'm very aware though, and it didn't feel spiritual. I knew I was on Earth, but I was just like,
So I'm going to go through near-death experiences.
We'll get to that,
But that is definitely one of the things that happens in a near-death experience.
That means I know there's a heaven.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Maybe I'm in it.
It doesn't.
I didn't know you were going to be here.
Of course.
How you been, man?
Heaven is in a podcast studio in Kaleen. Where else would it
wherever
be?
William is.
So it seems like near-death experiences or things like that have happened forever. So people have studied these transcendental, mystical, spiritual experiences that come close to death in all bunch of ancient civilizations. So we found records in ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, Vedic India, Greco-Roman antiquity, pre-Buddhist China, Himalayan Buddhism, pre-Columbian Mesoamerica, all of them civilizations.
Damn.
We got them all. All of them seem to have had a similar set of sorts of things. And here's the interesting. In all of them, all of those civilizations, modern civilizations, middle civilizations, less modern,
unmodern,
middle modern, all of them, and also kids through to adults, remarkably comparable sort of experiences.
Look, I know you're going to tell us a story, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, do they all have a human brain?
One of the things that does unite all of those civilizations and both humans, adults and children,
both humans and ancient people,
is the existence of human brain. So yes, there is a parallel, some sort of correlation there, but don't go too far into that. That is just a correlation.
That's all I have to say.
But yes, there seems to have been very similar sorts of experience. One difference, I don't even know where to squeeze this in, is that
put it wherever you want.
I'll come to the difference in a little bit. It's just a tiny little difference, and it's just like, really?
Just a thing of me?
That's the one. Okay, so what is a near-death experience? There's general description is a profound psychological event with transcendental and or mystical elements after a life-threatening crisis. So it does have to be involved in a life-threatening crisis, although many elements of that can happen in other times.
Like when you're doing podcasts, driving, lecturing.
It'll be really tough to get one lecturing, but damn, you would get the student evals after that. Like they say,
I can do it.
In the middle of his class, he had a near-death experience, and then he came back and he taught the rest of the class.
Transcendental. You could see lights sparkling around his crown.
Here's the common things that they overlap with. Many of them relate the sensation of floating up above your hospital bed, maybe, viewing the scene from one's unconscious body.
Yep.
Around one unconscious body, so not from, moving through a tunnel.
Yep.
Which is, that's the one strange difference. We seem to be adding the idea of a tunnel more recently.
So it's in like train culture. Like pre-trained peoples never have a tunnel.
Pre-trained, they didn't have tunnels, but more recent NDEs have tunnels. Okay, then they cross a border, spend time in a beautiful otherworldly realm, meet spiritual beings, some call them angels, and a loving presence that some call God. Encountering long-lost relatives or friends, probably the ones you like, recalling scenes from one's...
Oh, not you.
And fucking Derek was here.
Uncle Shitface. Yay.
Why you?
How's this good?
We'll come to those in a second. We'll come to those later.
Good.
Feeling a sense of connectedness to all creation, as well as a sense, this is like you, a sense of connectedness to all creation.
I feel like that every day.
Okay, good. As well as a sense of overwhelming transcendent love. And finally...
no, I don't feel that every day.
You're called reluctantly away from the magical realm and back into one's own body.
Pooey.
Many people that have the near-death experience say it doesn't feel like a dream. It's not even like a hallucination, but it's more real than real life, which is interesting. I mean,
more real.
I mean, definitely, I have had the dreams and I have had the hallucinations, but
Have you had something more real than real, though?
That's tough. That's
Ultra
tough.
real.
I only know real. It's like once your eyebrows are up, there's no
they don't go any
further,
higher.
there's no higher. So I don't
They
know
can't leave your head.
what are you going to do? I feel it hard to know what more real than real is, but they said.
Oh, no, I had opium once. That felt pretty much like that.
More
But
real?
it's the same thing.
Did it feel more real?
I mean, a friend of mine had opium once,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they described it to me.
Was it more real than real?
No, but it made certain things where you kind of go, wow, colours, there's a shitload more going on with colours than I thought, and things like that. So it was more
Would you say that's real or vivid? Or
it felt kind of
powerful?
post-vivid. But
sorry, listeners.
but the best I can describe, like I'm just wondering because I haven't had ND described as this is being described, but the more vivid is true, but how is vivid not the same as more real than real? Maybe vividity, is that what we call it? Vivid? Vividitude.
Sounds like there should be a French word for it.
Vivot.
Yeah, indeed, that one.
Vivete. Maybe all they're describing rather than more real than real is vivid. As a person who knows someone who once had opium years ago, that's what it sounds like to me.
I'm going to go with our friend. How did you describe it? Yeah, a little bit Corey Bernardi. I'll go with our friend Corey Bernardi's description, or at least part of his description of his near-death experience.
Yeah.
He had some sort of meningitis. This is when he was a neurosurgeon. He was 40 or something when this happened to him.
Young fella.
Indeed, a young fella, but not a child. While my body lay in coma, my mind, my conscious inner self, was alive and well, while the neurons of my cortex were stunned to complete inactivity by the bacteria that had attacked them. My brain-free consciousness journeyed to another, larger dimension of the universe, a dimension I'd never dreamed existed, in which the old pre-coma me would have been more than happy to explain was a simple impossibility. Now,
is the argument he was brain dead?
He's in a coma. He is. There are certainly stories of people that are technically brain dead.
So there was no measurable neural activity.
This is an interesting one for him. I think there is very low or nothing measurable for him.
Okay.
But I'm not going to go into his story in that sense. I'm going to go to his experiential story.
Yep.
Now, it took me months to come to terms with what happened to me. Not just the medical impossibility that I'd been conscious during my coma, but more importantly that the things that happened during that time. Towards the beginning of my adventure, I was in a place of clouds, big, puffy, pink ones that showed up sharply against the deep blue-black sky. Higher than the clouds, immeasurably higher, flocks of transparent, shimmering beings arced across the sky, leaving long, streamer-like lines behind them.
Yeah.
Birds, angels. These words registered later when I was writing down my recollections, but neither of these words do justice to the beings themselves, which were quite simply different from anything I've known on this planet. They were more advanced, higher forms.
Obviously.
A sound, huge and booming, like a glorious chant, came down from above, and I wondered if the winged beings were producing it. Again, thinking about it later, it occurred to me that the joy of these creatures, as they soared along, was such that they had to make this noise, that if the joy didn't come out of them in this way, then they would simply not otherwise be able to contain it.
I have to stop you there because this reminds me of a great story about a priest telling a story at a wedding.
Not where I thought you were going to go.
So
tell me the priest was talking about the joy had to come out of him.
Yes, not out of him, not out of him.
Okay.
So he was talking at this wedding, and I was surprised because they were young people having a very Catholic wedding, and I was there as a guest of a guest. I'm like, hey, let's go along. I don't care.
Yeah, sure.
This will be funny. Free drinks afterwards, great. And this priest was called Father Dave.
Sure.
He was cool. He wasn't cool. Spoiler alert. But he was trying to be. He was a nice guy. And he's saying, we just get so full of God's love, sometimes we just don't know what to do with it. I was at a farm. I was at a farm one day.
Stop.
I was at this farm, he says, and there were cows in the field, milk cows.
Again, I said...
Saying, and these cows, I could see them, and they were ready to be milked, but they hadn't been milked yet. And their udders were full. Their udders were bursting, and they were moaning and groaning with the need to get rid of the milk. And this is what it's like with God's love. You moan and groan, full to bursting with God's love. And I'm sitting there looking at my wife going, this is the fucking best. I cannot believe how much I'm enjoying the ceremony right now. So he was literally saying this, moaning and groaning and so full of God's love. That's what that makes me think of. I think it's relevant.
Same emotion. Same emotion. Well, so here we go. The sound was palpable and almost material, like a rain that you can feel on your skin but doesn't get you wet.
Ooh.
Seeing and hearing were not separate in this place where I now was. I could hear the visual beauty of the silvery bodies of those scintillating beings above, and I could see the surging, joyful perfection of what they sang. It seemed that you could not look at or listen to anything in this world without becoming a part of it, without joining with it in a mysterious way.
Yeah.
No,
That sounds great.
it does sound really nice.
Yeah.
Like all of this, it sounds really nice. So everything was distinct, yet everything was also a part of everything else. Like the rich and intermingled designs of a Persian carpet or a butterfly's wing. It gets stranger still.
Whoa. For
For most of my journey, someone else was with me. A woman. She was young. And I remember what she looked like.
Oh, wait, how young?
Appropriately young.
Still a woman.
Appropriate. I don't know. He doesn't say.
You just
he
don't
doesn't
know.
say, did I check ID? But
Excuse me, are you spiritually over 18? Okay,
as an angel.
come on. Let's keep going then.
And I remember what she looked like in complete detail. She had high cheekbones and deep blue eyes. Golden brown tresses framed her lovely face. When I first saw her, we were riding along together on an intricately patterned surface, which after a moment I recognized as the wing of a butterfly. In fact, millions of butterflies were all around us, vast fluttering waves of them dipping down into the woods and coming back up around us again. It was a river of life and colour moving through the air. The woman's outfit was simple, like a peasant's. But its colours, powder blue, indigo and pastel orange, they had the same overwhelming, super vivid aliveness that everything else had.
How bad do you wish you had meningitis right now? I mean, seriously.
You have a dream of hot women, more real than real.
No, but also the angels and the tones and
Look,
sounds great.
well, one of the things to say about this is near-death experiences do seem to change people, but they also largely, though far from exclusively, seem pretty freaking awesome. Like they seem really nice.
Yeah.
Like they seem.
It's rare to hear a bad one.
She looked at me with a look that, if you saw it for 5 seconds, would make your whole life up to that point worth living, no matter what had happened in it so far. He stresses right here. It was not a romantic look.
No.
I wasn't horny or anything.
It's not dirty.
Yeah, no.
This is spiritual.
Also, it was not a look of friendship.
Oh.
It was a look that was somehow beyond that, beyond all of this, beyond all the different compartments of love we have down here on Earth. It was something higher, holding all those other kinds of love within itself, while at the same time being much bigger than all of them.
Whoa.
Then she spoke.
G'day.
No.
What you up to?
Hey, buddy.
You probably got a bit of a headache. That's because of the meningitis.
Don't worry.
It's going to wear off. Here's some spiritual ibuprofen.
Without any words, she spoke to me.
Yeah.
The message went through me like a wind, and I instantly understood that it was true.
Ooh.
I knew so in the same way that I knew that the world around us was real. It was not fantasy, passing or insubstantial. The message had 3 parts, and if I had to translate them into earthly language, I'd say they ran something like...
Well, you do.
Well, they ran something like
No, I
this.
love it. If I had to. I'm like, well, okay.
Okay.
Don't and shut up.
Okay, so that sort of description is all nice,
Yeah.
but it's not very academic.
What makes you say that?
Well, it's very flowery. There's
Oh,
too
we
many
don't
flowery
like- we
words.
don't like
Butterfly
flowers.
wings and hot ladies and everything seems... And clouds.
Also, they haven't essentially euthanized 1,000 people and done the stats.
That's
We'll get to that. Yeah.
So, in 1983, Bruce Grayson, which sounds to me
Dick
like...
Grayson's older brother.
Indeed,
Yes.
Definitely somewhere in the Batman
Hell yeah.
tree.
Well, he's Bruce and he's Grayson.
Exactly.
It's like they had a baby.
So he would go on to become the Chester F. Carlson Professor Emeritus of Psychiatry and Neurobehavioral Sciences at the University of Virginia. So I'm just saying that because he's
Got the quals.
got the quals. He's
Yeah.
a legit professor of psychiatry and neurobehavioral stuff. Anyway, 1983, he published The Near-Death Experience Scale, Construction, Reliability, and Validity in the Journal of Nervous and Mental Disease. So the Grayson scale, as it's come to be known, he wasn't so gauche as to call it the Grayson scale, but everyone else.
Someone else does? Yeah.
It would rate
Why
you...
didn't they call it the Bruce scale? We're just going to measure you against Bruce.
Can't do first names. You can't do first names.
That's true. It's too informal.
Unless you're like the Queen.
Or Cher.
Or Cher. What is she must have a last name.
Yeah. Smith.
Uh,
Griselda Wolf.
So it would rate the intensity of a near-death experience on 16 separate counts. And you could get like a 0 or a 1 or a 2.
Okay.
I haven't done the numbers right now for Alexander's near-death experience. But we've got one that I'll come to in a second. So his criteria are, and so here you can go back to your experience.
So your maximum score is 54? Have I done my maths
32.
right? That's what I meant.
16, you can get 0, 1 or 2.
Oh, there are 3 levels, but one of them's 0.
Yes,
that's
0.
what confused
me.
me.
You can, do you have an altered sense of time? No, you get a 0. A little bit, you get a 1. And 2, holy shit, I am seeing through all space and time.
Yeah, okay.
So yes, you might, your experience probably registers a little bit on the Grayson scale. To get a verifiable near-death experience, you need a 7, although most of the ones that the experience
7 out of 32.
7 out of 32.
Wow, that's low bar.
Well,
it's not even a pass.
The average for those who consider themselves an experiencer is 15. So you're probably registering on a few of these, not necessarily all of them.
15 out of 36, not even half.
Well, maybe it's 1 for all of them.
I contest the scale, sir.
I had a little bit altered sense of time, a little bit accelerated. Yeah, so
yeah, okay.
Altered sense of time. Accelerated thought processes.
No.
I'm going to say a bad day of answering emails. You might have altered sense of time. Time lasts forever, and not the accelerated.
No, decelerated. Process. Definitely.
Well, here we go.
You need minuses.
Number 3, life review. Do you ever review your life while you're stuck answering email?
Yeah. But the review's not deep. It's pretty much why.
Yeah. Okay. That is mostly the seeing your entire life from past to present.
So that's unfortunately an entirely right now life experience, not even remotely near death.
Number 4, sense of sudden understanding. Again, that does come from being stuck in the email. Here's one that doesn't.
Yeah.
Effective feeling of peace. There's the one that you probably get a mark for your kidney explosion.
Oh, I got a 2 for that. Absolute peace. The most blissful I remember feeling in my adult life was during that period and the recovery.
Were you in pain at that time? Or
oh, fuck yeah.
So in a lot of pain, drugs, I assume.
Oh, hell yeah.
But peace with the pain, peace and the pain,
because
peace or the pain.
I thought about this a lot. No surprise. It's because there was no obligation on me at all.
I don't got to do anything?
Nothing. Like literally nothing. No one would even hint at a thought of expecting me to do fucking anything at all about anything.
I can totally relax.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there going, and I don't feel bad about that at all because I feel so bad and I can't get up.
This is like the Protestant work ethic. Finally, you've got to a place in the Protestant work ethic
gone.
where you don't have to.
It's gone. That was I thought about this a lot, and the overarching feeling was I'm totally at peace here because there is nothing I have to do, and not a molecule of any human in the universe would expect me to do anything except lie here.
You maybe have internalized the work ethic a bit too much. You should relax.
Oh, I am now because I had that experience.
That's good.
I had a near life experience, man. Whoa.
Many people call them that. Like I've heard that.
I'm derivative. Carry on.
Where we go. Feeling of cosmic unity. You know, you're at one with the universe.
No.
Seeing or feeling surrounded by light.
No.
Purportedly paranormal vivid senses.
Oh, every day. But that's not related. Yeah.
Extrasensory perception.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, sorry, this is Grayson, so he's being skeptical. Purported extrasensory perception.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Purported precognitive vision. You can see the future. Here's some more that are a bit more concrete on the, well, not more concrete, but things that people say. Yeah. Sense of being out of the physical body. Apparent transcendental sense of an other world environment. You feel like you're in another world.
Yeah.
Sense of a mystical entity. This is the God bit. Like you're walking along having a chat with the
honestly
the God guy.
Never in my life. I've never in my life had that experience at any level.
No, God, no. I can imagine though if you did. And your brain registered that as that could be an interesting experience.
It could go either way.
Like it'd be a tough one to
Don't worry, I'm always with you.
It'd be a tough one to get back and go straight back to your life of the booze and the diaries. If you've had a walk with God, like if you're doing the walk and talk with God,
or it wouldn't matter.
And God is saying, look, here's the point where you can straighten up and pull your socks up, and you're like, cool, God. Yeah, but I got to rock out for a while.
Your God's a boring jerk,
I got shit to do.
Why would God be so concerned with the mundanities of this brief terrestrial existence?
I don't know. Well, that's not.
These are my question. As opposed to, you seem like drinking and smacking. That's all right, mate, because eventually we'll all end up here.
You should do more of that. Party on. Bring the party to other people.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my responsibility.
Be the happy guy.
Be that guy.
Be the happy guy. I think we've got that pretty well cornered.
What else are there? Sense of deceased or religious spirits. So deceased means often,
like your own deceased friends and relatives and blah blah.
The friends that you like.
Yeah.
And then there's this sense of a border that you have, and this is like the other world
a crossing thing.
A crossing thing that you're in the other side.
Okay.
Now, so I haven't done the numbers on Alexander's. He probably scores quite a lot on a lot of these. I wonder why. But anyway, we'll go back to the earliest known medical case report of an NDE, and this is in 1740.
Ooh.
So, as I said before, they've documented near-death experiences or these mystical sorts of things that come close to death thousands of years, but mostly
not medically.
Yeah, no, mostly they're interpreted by either shamans or religious leaders or something like that,
or witches just before you kill them.
Oh, yeah. This one's interpreted by a physician. He's an army physician in the French army in 1740.
Oh, Lieutenant Jacques Lafitte.
Pierre-Jean Dumonceau.
Oh, so close.
And he published it in Medicine, and this is the English translation of his book, Medicine Anecdotes or Choices, singular facts relating to anatomy, pharmacy, natural history, etc., to which we have added anecdotes concerning the most famous doctors.
Oh.
Here's some medical shit and some funny shit about the famous doctors.
I also like anecdotes. Oh, and facts, but anecdotes.
Anyway, so this is the earliest medical description.
Yeah.
Sir L.C. Sir L.C. is the person that had it. One of the most famous apothecaries of Paris.
Apothecaries of Paris. What a great name for a weird band.
The apothecaries. I'm not going to be able to do it.
Apothecaries of Paris?
I think they're a gang, particularly back that time.
Oh, look out. We're the apothecaries. That's terrifying.
In Italy, 25 years ago, a malign fever and was treated by French physicians and surgeons and sustained many bloodletters. Don't know. After the last phlebotomy, which is the drawing of the blood, which was very important, he had a syncope, which is a faint, and was unconscious for such a long time that the assistants were particularly worried. He reported that after having lost all external sensations, he saw such a pure and extreme light that he thought he was in the kingdom of the blessed. He remembered this sensation very well and affirmed that never of all of his life had he had a nicer moment.
Yeah, no, I get that. My moment was long and definitely terrestrial.
But never had you had a nicer moment?
As I said, as an adult, I don't ever remember feeling so like, everything's fine, man, because I don't have to do anything. Not that I didn't want to do. I wasn't feeling. It wasn't a lazy moment. It was just like it's all cool.
I don't know.
I'm under no pressure.
I don't know if this guy had as many drugs helping him at the time.
Look, a little bit of morphine. That's the standard. That's the day to day.
So he just added here, other individuals of various ages and sexes reported a very similar sensation, going back to some 12th century theologian and blah, blah, blah. Now, anyway, just as a short tangent, this anecdote was found a couple of years ago by Philippe Charlier, who's a French coroner, forensic pathologist, and paleopathologist. And I just got to say that Philippe...
And mime.
No, he's not. Oh, he might be.
Of course he is.
But Philippe Charlier is my new academic hero.
Ooh.
Because Charlier was born in 1977, 2 years before me. His father was a doctor, his mother was a pharmacist, and he made his first dig at the age of 10. Now, I'm not sure what he's digging here, but...
Is old Budgie Petey
No. No, well, I don't know where it was, but he found a human skull on his first dig at the age of 10.
He put it there.
He was like, I'm going to go and study this more. So he studied archaeology and art history. And then he focused on the bones of famous people. So he...
Living or dead?
Dead. Study of the remains of Richard Lionheart, Agnes Sorel, Fulk III, Count of Anjou, Diane de Poitiers, and relics of Louis IX scattered in France. But anyway, my favourite bit...
You said famous people. Who the fuck are any?
Oh, Henry IV as well. Joan of Arc. Here we go.
I've heard of him.
Anyway, in 2017, he reconfirmed Hitler's dental remains from a jawbone fragment in the Soviet archives.
Yeah, he did.
I know!
Okay, now I'm in. I'm going to share the hero.
Like that sounds.
We're getting
good.
T-shirts.
Anyway, so Charlier went through and did the Grayson scale here.
Yeah.
And so he got altered sense of time, 1 out of 2. Effective feeling of peace, 2 out of 2. So you might have got a 2 out of 2 on yours. Feeling of cosmic unity. Oh no, didn't get anything on. Feeling of joy, 2 out of 2. Surrounded by light, 2 out of 2. And purported extrasensory perception, 1 out of 2. All up, he got there a 12 out of 32 for the Grayson criteria. So yeah, look.
Which means he officially had one.
He officially had a near-death experience.
Because the measurement says so.
Well, the measurement says so, but it's enough for us to talk about.
Oh, I'm not going to argue with that. I like talking about it. Am I going to be scathing about measurements of such things? Yes.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But I do want to talk about it because it's
what
fantastic.
you measure matters and all of that kind of stuff.
What you matters measures. Yep.
So people have historically looked at these accounts, and it does seem that the only difference in all people's accounts is tunnels. They're more common.
Pre-trained cultures, I'm telling you.
I don't know what it is. Maybe, yeah. And then I was in the tube going from Charing Cross
Wadding
Station.
to Hockney. Hackney?
I don't know.
Hockney.
Or the Channel Tunnel. Finally, I'd attained heaven, and I was inside a tunnel.
Running through the channel. There's a bit of moisture on my head.
All right. So how common are they?
6.
Well, you've got to be in the right situation for them.
Yeah, nearly dead.
Nearly dead.
Yeah.
Nearly dead. So, and you've got to come back from the nearly dead. So that's
the ones afterwards are hard to interview.
That's a big trick. Very hard to interview. They may have had all of the near-death experience, but then died.
Yeah.
I've always wondered.
Surely you do. If you're near dead and then dead, surely you were near dead first.
This is my favourite story. I don't know when I read it. I must have been like 10 or 11 or 12, and it was...
I know the one. I can tell already. Go.
No, it was like... It was just a whole encyclopedia of dumb little anecdotes.
Yeah.
And one of the stories was, after you've had your head chopped off, you can still think for 20 or 30 seconds. And I'm like, there was no other facts to this. And I'm like, give me some more, because that is so...
Also, I really don't want to.
No, but it's so...
Long enough to go, that's my body over there.
and it's one of those ones where, okay... Can we do the science on that? Not easily.
Have to be quick.
You would. Supposedly, I think it's in the French Revolution. People would blink and things. And they would ask people if they're guillotining people all the time in the French Revolution.
Yeah,
heads are on the floor. And so they'd ask them questions like, do you finally repent? And blink once for yes, 2 times for no. Did I blink too many times?
Can you imagine that? Yes.
No, they can't talk. Because they got no lungs and no diaphragm, so it's only blinking that it can do. And then make mouth movements. Do you love execution? Are you happy with that or not?
I loathe it as a principle, but I'm fascinated by it as a thing to do.
Yeah, and also the French aristocracy, separate, they kind of deserved it.
Oh no, obviously no. The French did great food though, so I'll give them that.
It seems like, we'll come to some numbers in a bit, it seems like maybe 2% of people in the right situation have them, but you have to be very much in the right
2%.
So they're not...
Low.
They're not, well, but they're not uncommon.
High.
I just, this idea of walking with God and...
2%? I'm sorry. Low.
Okay.
2% of people who've been nearly dead and then back... report having an NDE.
Yeah, 2% of those. Something like that. Something like
low,
that.
low.
It's tough to work out the numbers.
Yeah, what's your sample space? Not large. I'm going to go charitably and say it's probably more.
Let's go with one of the reasons that they're tough to work out the numbers is that we've got a reporting bias. So I'll come to how we've collected the data in a second.
Yeah.
One of the big reporting biases is that if you have a good one, like Ibn Alexander's, where you're walking with God, well, he gets to God later, I'm not going to do the whole thing.
And the hot chick with the hair.
The hot chick on the butterfly, and she says, here's the 3 mystical things about the universe. Then,
2, and the 3rd.
Exactly. Then you're going to want to tell people. And he went and told people, and he I think his book sold 97 million copies. No. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for 97 weeks. That was it.
Yeah, my understanding is to get on that, you can game that system pretty easily. Anyway, I'm just saying.
Sure, but I haven't
still
gamed it.
Got there.
Neither have you.
I've written a book. PhD counts.
All of my books have not. So
you've written a book?
No, I haven't.
PhD.
Okay,
that's book sized.
Sure.
It is. I've read you. I haven't read his. I didn't even know he had one in.
Who would really read someone else's things? But anyway, but that's a very positive story. So it's not quite known what the number of hellish NDEs are. And so I was just...
Christ, that's a pity, but also...
Some people reckon it might be 23%. I don't know why they get that number. It's really hard to tell.
Stats.
We'll come to some of the reporting, how they do in a sec. But there are... so this paper is in the Journal of Missouri State Medical Association, Missouri Medicine.
I love that one.
Published by Bruce Grayson of the Grayson Scale and Nancy Evans Bush, who was...
Of the Bush Scale.
No, she was president emerita of the International Association of Near-Death Studies. So they're an association.
So both of them are in it.
Yeah, but
Is it just the two of them?
there's quite a few. There's quite a few. They have conferences. They've got a journal that is quite vibrant, actually. And so in this paper, they did document the varieties of near-death experiences. There's three that they categorize them as: inverse, void, and hellish. So the inverse typically seem to be they get the pleasurable, the same sorts of sensation as the pleasurable ones, but they flip them around. So, for example,
what? Your orgasm goes in? I injeculated?
More that they're having the same sort of, maybe it's a tunnel, maybe it's a light, but they're like, I don't want the light. The light is bad. I don't.
It's nice, but I don't want it.
Yeah, a woman felt her spirit separate. A woman in childbirth felt her spirit separating from her body and fly into space at tremendous speed.
Cool.
Then saw a small ball of light rushing towards her. It became bigger and bigger as it came towards me. I realized that it was on a collision course, and it terrified me. I saw the blinding white light coming right towards me and engulfing me. So she's panicked by this light, whereas potentially other people might have seen that.
Like you hug me, okay.
The void version is emptiness, nothing. There is, whereas a woman in childbirth, again, found herself abruptly flying over the hospital into deep, empty space. A group of circular entities informed her she never existed, that she had been allowed to imagine her life, but it was a joke. She was not real. She argued with the facts about her life and descriptions of Earth. No, they said, none of that has ever been real. This is all there was. She was left alone in space. Not a great experience. Not a great experience.
What's it like? Are you just really alone forever in a black room? Surrounded by circular entities.
Yeah.
So fat people.
So there's a bunch of people that a woman who attempted suicide felt sucked into a void. I was being drawn into this dark abyss or tunnel or void. I was not aware of my body as I know it. I was terrified. I felt terror. I had expected nothingness. I expected the big sleep. I expected oblivion. I found now that I was going to another plane, and it frightened me. I wanted nothingness, but this force was pulling me somewhere I didn't want to go, but I never got beyond the fog. The
horror of nothing being not quite nothing. Like there's nothing, but you know it.
Oh, and you're sitting there forever.
Doesn't seem cool.
Like, it really, no.
Not good for you.
Not at all.
Are you prepared to sit here with nothing to fiddle with?
Just my thoughts forever. And then the last version is the hellish. The hellish near-death experience. A man in heart failure felt himself falling into the depths of the earth. At the bottom was a set of high, rusty gates, which he perceived as the gates of hell. Panic-stricken, he managed to scramble up towards the daylight.
He probably just came up with that himself. Nothing to do with cultural icons and stuff
at
at all.
Look, cultural icons may be a little bit part of this.
Especially tunnels.
Indeed. A woman was being escorted through a frighteningly desolate landscape and saw a group of wandering spirits. They looked lost and in pain, but her guide indicated that she was not allowed to help them. An atheistic university professor with an intestinal rupture experienced being maliciously pinched, then torn apart by malevolent beings.
Oh, Jesus. Maliciously pinched.
He was atheistic.
Mine pinched me.
A woman who attempted suicide felt her body sliding downward in a cold, dark, watery environment. Man. When I reached the bottom, it resembled the entrance to a cave with what looked like webs hanging. I heard cries, wails, moans, and gnashing of teeth. I saw these beings that resembled humans with the shape of a head and a body, but they were ugly and grotesque. They were frightening and sounded tormented in agony.
So this phrase, and I've used it myself because it's funny, gnashing of teeth. I hadn't thought about it till just then what that actually sounds like, and I don't know. Yeah, like, is that gnashing?
No, I think it's more, well...
Clickety, clackety, click, click?
I don't know.
It sounds like it should be like, but like your teeth don't do that.
And that wouldn't sound real coming out of an actual person.
And then a little...
Are they grinding their teeth in such a loud way that you can hear it?
Clickety, click, 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 click. It'd get annoying, but it's not terrifying.
I'm very happy that you've been troubled by gnashing of teeth.
Well, just think about it. Like, because, there's a wailing and gnashing of teeth. You're like, wailing, I understand. Gnashing of teeth. It kind of detracts from the wailing. It kind of calms the wailing down.
Maybe if you're in a theatre or a church and 100 people are doing it all at once.
So it'd sound like rain.
Yeah, but that would be weird, though.
Rain's quite soothing.
Can you imagine a room of 100? No, there was a show, wasn't there, where they did that? Yeah, that'd be good. Where they're just chattering their teeth. I'll come back to that later. Sure? So yeah, it's not quite known how many people have the distressing version. But maybe it's 23%, but because there's a huge bias there. So now, what impact do they have? A lot of people say that it totally flips their life.
Sure.
So it's not just as they get a zest for life, but they supposedly have these profound psychological and physiological differences. Now, at this point, I'm getting a lot of stuff from the Institute for International Association for Near-Death Studies. And I just got to say, they do peer review their stuff, but they are not 100% down the let's go objective on this.
Yeah, and look, peer is a flexible word. Did you join the association though? You couldn't help yourself, could you? You signed up.
No, their journal articles are available for free. So
doesn't mean you don't want to be a member. You love to join. You're a joiner.
They are happy with people of all sorts, but they do like people that have experience. So what sorts of things happen? So people lose their fear of death, which you can get if you have a positive one.
If you have a good one,
If you have a good one. They become more spiritual and less religious, easily engage in
That's
abstract thinking, more philosophical, can go through various bouts with depression, don't know, more generous and charitable than before, form expansive concepts of love while at the same time challenged to initiate and maintain satisfying relationships. Partly that's they become so in love with the world that they're not so good at holding on to normal,
Of course I love you, but I also love her and her and her and her and her.
Yes. And also that woman that was in heaven.
It's all love, babe.
It was on the butterfly. She was...
Baby, it's all love.
Miranda in heaven. She's...
Yeah. It's not that I don't love you enough. It's just I have so much love to give.
More love. My heart just grows. My heart is bigger.
It's not infinite. Yeah. I mean, it's not finite.
What else do they do?
I'm going to try that. It's going to go well.
Rejection of previous limitations in life and normal role playing.
So like flat earth, there is no gravity?
Probably more just I don't want to go to work.
Okay, I have had one.
Heightened sensations of taste, touch, texture, and smell.
Yeah.
Increased psychic ability.
From a baseline of 0.
Probably to still 0.
0.001.
Well, they're highly curious, and they have a strange influence on electrical equipment.
Okay. Now, so we can test that one, and psychic ability.
The IANDS also did this for children. So they're similar. Yeah, they have difficulty relating to children of their own age. They become increasingly spiritual, increasingly sensitive, strong desire to volunteer. Also, different ways of perceiving and increased psychic ability. So a child who nearly dies gets weird afterwards. Yeah.
I'm amazed to hear that.
Yeah, probably. Like I don't doubt that. And God, I can imagine it would be a super weird thing. Both people around and for the child themselves to go, all right, I'm not, and
this is Shanice. She nearly died.
Mum and Dad, I had this thing, and then I was in heaven, and I talked to this guy.
This pale chick with hair.
Yeah, she was strangely, she didn't love me, but she loved me.
She loved me more than loving these butterflies?
More than you, Mum and Dad.
Yeah. Anyway, do you want an ice cream? Not really.
No.
Ice creams don't matter.
I'm post ice cream.
Oh, that would be... that would be odd.
There's no ice cream in heaven.
Heaven is ice cream.
But I mean, a lot of the evidence does show that they are pivotal events in people's lives. It's like a catalyst for growth on many sorts of levels. Some of which, objectively you can see. Some of which, like the psychic abilities, not so much. But
that's because you don't have the abilities to see them, man.
Interestingly, though, the Institute for Near-Death Studies does say that sometimes all of these things are an indicator if you've had the near-death experience and you might not have realised it yet.
You didn't realise you nearly died.
In fact, as we go back to Ibn Alexander's, he pieced it together a whole lot later, where people come back a lot later and they say, suddenly I've been feeling quite psychic and in love with everyone. And people say, well, did you have a near-death experience? And they go, I think you might be right.
I think I'm in love with you.
And you.
And I knew you were going to say that. This is amazing.
So there's a bit of a weird effect where people piece it together.
Yeah, okay.
So, all right, I want to go into the research a little bit about how they got to this. So the research really kicked off in about 1975. So Raymond Moody Jr., he was a philosopher, then a psychiatrist. He published Life After Life, where he interviewed 50 people that had experienced a near-death experience.
That's pretty good.
And then after that, there's been a whole bunch of people a whole bunch of interviews that have come forward, a whole bunch of stories. And so...
not just on Fox and Friends.
Not just on Fox and Friends, no.
Good to know.
So in both the Journal of the Near-Death Studies, but also in a whole bunch of other medical journals, there's been probably 3,500 stories published in the scholarly literature.
Stories, not papers.
No, 600 scholarly papers.
Wow.
With 3,500 people.
Yeah,
these are all their stories here. I was trapped under a truck. I was kayaking and something. So
how did you get trapped under a truck when you're kayaking. That's
Well,
very unlucky.
I'm bad at kayaking, really bad at kayaking.
Yeah, I was on a road in front of trucks.
I was doing it wrong.
No.
No, I hadn't read the manual.
No one mentioned water. It's very confusing.
Now, so what these are...
You keep reading. I'll top up your beverage.
Hang on, I'll finish that so you can get different beer.
I don't mind. It's your near-death experience.
I know you don't. Yeah, that's fine. As you can guess, the people that are happy to tell their stories are pretty much the uplifting ones. So there's not a lot of the negative stories that are happening here. So there's a big bias in the literature.
Yeah.
So there's a big problem there.
Well, I mean, yes and no. The fact that they're positive isn't necessarily suggesting they don't exist.
Oh no! Not suggesting it's not an
It's just we're only getting one impression.
Yeah, it's just we're documenting part of this. Like if there's a painting going on here, we're seeing really clear, moderately clearly half of the painting and something else is
Can you
going
imagine
on.
that? So you're spruiking for participants in your research, like nearly died. Was it horrific? Want to come and talk about it with us?
Come and chat.
We're going to put EAG and we're going to record you and we're going to ask you probably 9 or 10 interviews.
We'll put you back in there and see if you can get there again.
Yeah, so that we can really understand it.
So look, and as much as people have had that impact on their lives for the positive experience, I can imagine that the negative experience would be pretty horrific.
God,
but it also shows that another bias in the literature is people sort of remember them gradually. They're not sort of popping up out of a coma or something like that, and they're going, "I had a near-death experience." And
yeah, that's weird. I didn't know about that. That sounds more sus.
Yeah. So the goal in all of these, in collecting all of these studies, and this is a goal that is somewhat shared by the people that believe in these, as well as the people who are skeptical. It's weird. There's a nice union between people that are like, this will be proof of heaven, and people are like, this is not, but I really want to stop it from being proof of heaven. The skeptics and the believers.
This is like the Republicans and Democrats could come together.
I know, on this. And so one of the things they're really looking for is, because a whole lot of this stuff's not super verifiable, but
What's it like? It's not super verifiable.
No. Like
it's verifiable-ish.
Like, for example, describing the length of God's beard that's not super verifiable. But one of the things that does seem to be common in many near-death experience claims is the out-of-body experience. And the out-of-body experience that seems to be not, I'm in
looking down upon your own body.
Yes, not in another universe, but I'm close by.
I could see the surgeons putting my heart back in my chest and all that good stuff.
So this has become the gold standard of
can you verify what was in the room? And
Yes.
Yeah.
So, of all of the people that have come forward, there's a couple of stories that people have grabbed onto that people have held onto. So the first one was Maria and her tennis shoe. Maria was a migrant worker who had a cardiac arrest in a hospital in Seattle in 1977. She later told her social workers that while doctors were resuscitating her, she floated up outside the hospital and she saw a tennis shoe on the third floor window of on a ledge of the window ledge in a place where you couldn't quite see it from any other direction. And she described it in some detail. As you can guess from the story, the fact that I'm telling this, Maria woke up, they went and had a look, and there's that tennis shoe.
She put it there before nearly killing herself.
I don't know. But the problem with that story is that Maria disappeared not long later, and no one's been able to track down to confirm that story. It's just become a story, so there's not a lot of evidence. A slightly stronger one is Pam Reynolds. She was a singer-songwriter. In 1991, when she was 35, she went under brain surgery. And so they were worried that, so it was an aneurysm in her brain. They were really worried about that bursting. So what they did is they chilled her body down to 15 degrees. So they're basically stopping her body. They're putting, you
mean minus 15?
No,
just 15.
15's cold. 15's quite cold for your brain and your body.
Not for me. I'm a snowboarder. Carry on.
Look, okay. When you're normally 37.
You mean Fahrenheit?
I don't think I do because I already converted it, but maybe I lost the minus sign. It's possible.
I don't know.
It's possible.
I don't do science. I just talk about it.
No, but they didn't freeze her into like a frozen log.
But I'm just thinking 15 cents.
They just chilled her.
It's like when you go to people's houses, like, it's only 15 degrees. I'm going to turn on 11 heaters and put on a jacket.
Yeah, but it takes a long time for your body to actually get to 15.
If your body's at 15, you're fucked.
Like, exactly.
Why didn't you say that?
There you go. It's her body. It's her
that
body.
makes sense.
Not the...
What's the carry? It's like, the ambient temperature is lowered to 15. It's like she's nearly dead. That makes sense now.
A long time ago when I was dabbling, thinking about telling you the story of the Nazi hypothermia experiments, 15 is very, very, very cold.
Your core temperature should not be 15.
It should not.
No.
But
look, it shouldn't be 25.
Apparently the biggest problem is not the cooling, but the thawing.
That's why we haven't got suspended anzamations yet.
Indeed.
Because we can freeze bodies real good.
And what did we find yesterday? A couple of days ago, we can thaw out worms that are 32,000 years old.
Yeah. That's great.
Anyway, to make sure that her brain was completely inactive during the operation when they'd cooled her down and shut things down with anesthesia, they put small speakers into her ears and played rapid, continuous clicks at 100 decibels.
Would you say a bit like gnashing of teeth?
No. It could be. Imagine gnashing of teeth at 100 decibels right in your ears the whole way through.
To make sure her brain wasn't working.
Yeah, it sounds like a jackhammer.
Yeah, to make me want to shut down.
Yeah, exactly. So if any part of her mind, literally any part of her mind was working, the insistent clicking would show up as electrical signals. So what they were able to show is that nothing's going on. Now, so they did the surgery, all went fine. She gets up and that's there. After surgery, she reported having a powerful near-death experience, including out-of-body. And she accurately recalled several details about what was going on in the operating room, such as the shape of the bone saw used on her skull, which is really cool.
Oh, hell yeah. What do you remember? It was great.
It was curved. It was a curvy saw.
Scimitar that came down. Oh.
Can you... just the idea of imagining the shape of a saw going into your head.
I'm doing it now. It's not great. I can't imagine actually seeing it.
She remembered snatches of conversations between the medical staff and the fact that they were playing Hotel California in the room.
Yeah, that's not sinister at all.
No, God, no. Oh, God.
You can check in, but you can never leave.
Anyway,
we're going to do brain surgery.
Do you know that there is a time in the life of the universe in which that song will never be heard again? And that will be a good time.
Is it tomorrow?
I don't know. I can't confirm. Probably not tomorrow.
It's fucking sinister. It's so sinister.
Yeah. So for a lot of people in the near-death community, this is like she was hearing a lot of stuff, and she got this good out-of-death experience. But it seems like maybe this was all happening before she went fully under.
So she's just a bit, out of it.
But they've donated whole episodes of the Journal of Near-Death Studies to try and work out, okay, was she hearing this or was she under or not? So it's a big thing for them to try and work out.
So all I'm hearing is any kind of ER or operating room, etc., where people are likely to be dying, dead, or coming back, you've got to, after they get in, you've got to have a nurse who basically puts a bunch of wacky objects in there and stuff like this.
No. You've got the idea, though. You're a science guy.
Yeah.
Prospective studies. So there's been 12 prospective studies where what they've done is they published them over the last few years. They've gone into places where people are likely to have them. So emergency rooms, cardiac arrest places, stuff like that. And they've hidden objects around the room.
Nice.
And these are hidden objects that the medical team, like as in the medical team there, the research team.
They didn't know?
No one knows.
Quadruple blind.
In fact, they've installed in places in the US, in the United Kingdom, Austria as well in one of the studies. They put shelves up in the rooms and hide stuff on the shelves so that people can identify them if they float up out of the room and say, "Oh, look, I saw."
Oh, that's great. This is my old tobacco pouch. This is my butt plug. Like it's all up there. No, you just wouldn't expect it.
My butt plug.
By mine, I mean someone else's. I'm pretending to be someone else in that moment.
Like as a better standard for going, okay, this is where people might have these experiences.
Sure. Yeah.
And let's actually rig this so that if they find them, they can. Yeah. But let's do some numbers here. So this is the AWARE study, which I think has been the biggest one of these. So over
is AWARE an acronym by any chance?
It probably is. I don't know. Over 4 years, the study recorded 2,060 cardiac arrests.
Wow.
I think that was just in the rooms that they were in.
Yeah.
Now, there might have been more, but they weren't actually able to get all the details.
Yeah.
Of those, 330 patients survived. So that's the survival rate of people getting a cardiac arrest in that time. It's not great. That's 15% surviving these cardiac arrests. break that down to half of those, 140, were judged well enough to be able to interview. So some of those people are surviving, but they're not
great.
Super surviving. Like they're...
Are you alive? Yes.
Yeah. Oh, not even that.
Okay. Blink twice. Can't do that either. Okay. Not so much alive as not dead.
Down again to 100 made it past the screening interview. The others were unable to continue, predominantly due to fatigue. Like so basically, we're still down to 100 who'd had heart attacks, survived, and were able to be interviewed
and could talk.
Of these, 9 remembered experiences that counted as near-death experience on the Grayson scale. So this gets closer to this is the number I was saying before, the 2%ish that we're getting of 330 that survive. We're getting 9. We're getting a very low number.
Yeah,
and 2 remembered an out-of-body experiences. Of those 2, 1 became too ill to interview any further. So
that's convenient.
We're just left with 1 subject who could recount what he'd seen in detail. He was, a 57-year-old man. He described floating up to a corner of the room, seeing medical staff working on him and watching himself being defibrillated. According to the paper, several of the other details he described checked out.
Yeah.
What's more, after triangulating the patient's description with workings of the defibrillator, the researchers think he may have seen things that happened for as long as 3 minutes after his heart stopped.
Okay.
But the problem was he happened in a room that they didn't have the shelves. So out of all the people, they're still waiting. They're still waiting for this one perfect bit of evidence.
Ken, could you do it again?
But in fairness, if you do get this one person who floats up just high enough to get there. But some people, there's, what do I say, there's 12 prospective studies.
Yeah.
But no one has yet got this clinching evidence. One of the researchers had said, some of the patients, they floated in the opposite direction.
Recalcitrant sons of bitches. At least work with us.
Or some were floating just above their body, but not like 2 meters above.
So they need lower shelves.
One patient reported that he was too focused on observing the body to look for any targets. Also, I would have been able to see it if you'd told me to go look for it.
It's not my fault, man.
Could have done.
You didn't tell me.
I'd be fine. Could have.
What, you want me to do 1,000 push-ups? I could have. You didn't tell me. That's why I only did 3.
Exactly. I was looking at my body, man. It's pretty hot. Seriously.
I got a 3-pack. It's amazing.
All right. What the hell is really happening with a near-death experience?
Really happening. Big call. Back to Fox and Friends for the truth.
Okay, so obviously one story is the Institute of Near-Death Studies, the religious story. It is what it is. This is the opening of the doorway. This is the step through to the other side. As Newsweek published here,
heaven is real.
Heaven is real. And as Fox News went with the very strong heaven is real.
Which is fine. Go for it. Don't call it science.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Fine.
So Eben Alexander, he said, I studied my medical charts and I came to the conclusion that I was in such a deep coma during my NDE that my brain was so completely shut down. The only way to explain what I felt was that my soul had indeed detached from my body and gone on a trip to another world, and that angels, God, and the afterlife are all as real as they can be.
Or, as a neuroscientist, we don't know everything about the brain yet, and there could have been activity that we can't measure. I bet just call me old-fashioned.
Stop it.
Call me old-fashioned.
Stop it. Yes. So what is the story? So even back to that's the spiritual version of the story. Fair enough. And
you're allowed to have that.
And it could be, but again, not a scientific way of accounting for things.
And this is, above all else, a science-esque podcast.
So the other side is the materialist side. So something's going on in your brain, in your head, in whatever, in your body. And so people have been trying to do this for ages. In fact, the physician who had that first story back in 1740, the first medical story, he was like, okay, maybe it's because all the blood has gone from your fingers and into your brain. You're getting a flood of blood in your brain, and therefore something's going on. That's not it at all, but at least he was having a go.
The problem is you got too much blood in your brain.
Yeah, and not in your fingers. Like low finger blood.
When my fingers are cold, I see weird shit all the time. It's true. I get that. So he's right.
Another materialist story, which is slightly materialist, but not spiritual, I guess, is that a near-death experience is relieving the trauma of birth. Since a baby travels through the tunnel of the womb to light.
Back up the old...
Yeah. And greeted by the love and warmth of the nursing staff. Maybe the dying brain's doing the same thing. Strangely, the way that they've disproved this, they've actually tested people who've had near-death experiences and whether they were delivered by vaginal birth or cesarean birth. Yeah. And it seems like even the cesarean people have the whole tunnel experience. So probably not.
They don't have a flap or a slice experience?
Sort of, and then the flap opened and God peered in. I don't know.
Kind of a tunnel.
Okay. So modern theories.
Reverse birth, though. It's not an attractive theory.
It's not a great theory. But, okay, so the sensible modern theories, they're looking at stuff going on in the brain. So it's oxygen shortages, possibly imperfect anesthesia, or basically neurochemical
By anesthesia,
responses.
do you mean anesthesia?
Anesthesia. Yeah, I do mean that. But
I like anesthesia. It's easy to say and it's shorter.
Well, why haven't they shortened it yet?
Well, they're about to. They listen to this podcast.
So, it's well established that an oxygen shortage can lead to disorientation, confusion, hallucinations. And that can trigger a variety of things in your brain that look like a near-death experience. Yep. Getting a few of those things on the Grayson
scale. Shit gets trippy.
And in fact, an out-of-body experience. When you're looking at your
shit gets trippy.
Also,
a friend of mine told me
too much carbon dioxide as well. Same sort of time can trigger that can trigger the tunnel experience as well.
In post-trained cultures.
And so there is one useful bit of evidence here. It's they've done some rat studies to see if they experience God or anything like that. They anesthetized some rats, stopped their hearts, and within 30 seconds, the rat's brain signals flatline.
Yep.
But just before that happens, there seems to be a huge spike in activity in the brain. Okay. Like all of the neurons are communicating with each other.
Sense of oneness. Wholeness.
Stop it. Oh, my God.
Okay.
Yeah. Even more actively than when they're awake. Even more actively.
There we go.
Like more real than real.
Yep.
And so this has become a little bit of a totemic sort of study in the materialist account. Like
I bet it has.
Basically it's showing that something big is going on in the brain as the heart stops.
Before nothing goes on in the brain.
The way that people are... the materialist account is saying this, is that basically it's your brain trying to register, okay, we're not getting the right stimuli, let's work out everything that's going on. A huge spasm of stimuli. And
it's a sports metaphor. It's the brain leaving everything on the court.
Yeah, let's try.
It's like if it's not going well, I'm going to dump everything. Screw it. Let's just dump it all. Let's see what happens.
And that seems to be a pretty good account of what's going on. But here's the interesting thing. Why do they follow such a consistent pattern? Why?
Biology.
Well, yeah. Well, what is the bit in biology that says that for so many of us, as we're experiencing this moment of near death, that potentially our brain's going into low oxygen environment, it's close to brain death, has this spasm of activity, and suddenly goes, okay, you're going through a tunnel, you're going up to fluffy clouds, there's a hot lady on a butterfly wing who will introduce you to God and take you back down.
And your favorite dead relatives.
And so this is the one that makes me, I really like this. So
okay, I'll try and be kind, but it won't be easy.
No, I don't know if it's not a theory. It's not, I guess it's a theory, not an explanation, but it's a way of encountering this.
Yeah.
So the famous British skeptic Susan Blackmore, she reckons the mystery has pretty much been solved of near-death experience.
Okay.
We already know, she says, that a hyperactive brain under the stress of approaching death can trigger all of the phenomena that we've said. So anoxia, high stimulation sort of things.
Yeah.
The big question is, we see all these aspects in isolation with various drugs and illness and so, but in their near-death experience, they unfold in that specific order. Why? We might guess that it has something to do with a cascade of neurotransmitters or possibly the way that hyperactivity spreads. I don't know. Okay, so an article that has been really useful.
Specific order thing is interesting.
Gideon Litchfield, and this is an awesome article in The Atlantic. It's well worth reading.
Most of them are.
I think that a scientific answer to Blackmore's question, why so many NDEs follow a similar sequence, would do more than complete the puzzle of how they happen. It would also help us to understand why NDEs have such a profound effect on those who experience them. So he was at the Institute of Near-Death Society conference, and he was there and someone said, look, all of the near-death experiences are pretty much like the hero's journey.
So Conrad comes in.
Literally. So so the hero's journey, or the mono myth. Joseph Campbell.
Campbell.
So this is the story of Star Wars, the story of just about every.
It's a story of stories, man.
It's the story of stories. The hero leaves a place, has an experience, goes out to the rest of the world, triumphs over a monster, comes back.
Trials and tribulations, up and down, gets to the worst place ever, and then comes back. Blah, blah, blah. Yep.
The quest underlies just about every form of storytelling, from religious myth to Greek epic to Hollywood blockbuster. In this structure, the protagonist is shaken out of his normal life by some disturbance, often reluctantly at first, but the urging of some kind of mentor or wise figure strikes out on a journey to an unfamiliar realm. There he faces tests, battles enemies, and questions the loyalty of friends and allies, withstands an ordeal, teeters on the brink of failure or death, and ultimately returns to where he began, victorious, but in some way transformed. Nearly all of the near-death experiences follow exactly this structure. So I didn't tell you all of Alexander's, but before he got to the fluffy clouds, he started off in a dark place, a kind of semi-transparent mud or dirty jello, he said, filled with grotesque animal faces that came...
faces or feces?
It's faces. But feces would be bad.
Easy mistake to make.
Eventually, he pulls himself up to that strange, beautiful world with the hot lady. He encounters the beautiful girl riding on a butterfly's wing, who tells him that he's loved and cherished dearly forever. And accompanies on him a trip to a light-filled void where he meets a divine being who unlocks for him many secrets of the universe. Well, she said, I will tell you 3 things before.
Did he come back not remembering those?
No, he remembered them.
You got to read the book.
You are loved and cherished dearly forever. You have nothing to fear, and there is nothing you can do wrong. The message flooded me with a vast and crazy sense of relief. It was like being handed the rules to the game I'd been playing all my life without ever fully understanding it.
That's not rules.
We'll show you many things here.
Just do what you want, mate. It's fine. That's not rules. What's the takeaway? Doesn't matter.
But if God says it...
It's not rules. It's not a handbook. What are the rules? It doesn't matter. Don't worry. Do what you want. It's going to be fine. Everyone fucking loves you. It's great. I'm not against it. I'm just saying it's not rules.
We'll show you many things here, the woman said again, without actually using these words, but driving the conceptual essence directly into me. But eventually, you will go back. And so... they fit so much the pattern of the
hero's journey.
The hero's journey. That here's what I wonder: is our brain so wired for story that in our dying moments we trigger a story moment to understand what's going on?
That's kind of cool.
It comes all back to story.
That's kind of cool though, isn't it? It's like in the end you're like, you know what? I'm going to tell you a story. Like,
here's a fucking story.
Thank you.
Yeah. So,
stories are like hugs, man. It's awesome.
But the other thing about this is why people fight over them so much. It's the grounds in which if they're right, those who are looking for proof of heaven, they're like, this is the closest we'll get. Yeah. And the skeptics will be, this is a place where we can say, this is just an experience that is all within the brain. And
honestly, what's the difference?
Maybe it's both. I don't know.
Yeah, like what's the difference? I didn't have an NDE. I'm convinced of that because I never felt like I was going to die. I just felt like this is pretty shit, but I think it's going to be cool. So therefore I don't think that's an NDE. Like, or maybe an NDE part of it is I don't know if I'm going to die or I don't care.
How many times has it become part of your story though?
Like internally.
Yeah, internally, literally internally.
It certainly changed my view. It made me more aware of bureaucracy.
And love for bureaucracy
and measurement. Like I'm always joking around, as you know very well, better than anyone, how in this COVID tragedy, etc., that we're going to measure our way out of it, which I find despicable and disgusting. But also I'm like, meh.
Yeah, totally.
Meh. Like, fuck, whatever. And I used to, before mine, I'd still argue not a near-death experience, but...
Well, should we call it a near-near?
We'll call it an aware... Like, I had a very clear...
Near-near?
I was made very aware that I was mortal. Maybe that's a better way of putting it.
Well, there you go. Okay.
I was made very aware
you don't have to have passed through the void to have that.
I think that was more. It was just like, by the way, you're mortal. And I was like, oh, fuck, I really am. Okay, cool. Let's just write it out. And I wrote it out, fine, whatever. But it was,
it's very strange that potentially, rat brains Our brains are wired to go, okay, can we solve this problem? Can we solve
Let's
this problem?
dump it all.
And panic.
Yeah.
But flipping that around, we have turned that into story, and we've gone, can we solve this problem? I'm going to take this and make me into something new.
It makes sense. I think the story thing makes sense. I mean, I know it could be, circular logic, blah, 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 but in the end,
I don't think our brain is anything but circular logic. I think
whoa.
I think that is the circular logic
That's
of our
my
brain.
chest tat.
There you go.
Our brain is nothing but circular logic. Chest tattoo. With the giant eagle, of course.
This has been The Wholesome Show.
Nearly dead, but still alive.
If you've had near-death experiences, I hope they've been positive, not the negative one. But if they've been negative, come and tell us, because that would be, we won't laugh. That would be horrible.
If you had a near-death experience and died, we'd want to hear about that even more.
True. Also, if you've had a near-death experience that was 100% beige, give us that.
Can you imagine that? I was in a waiting room to get my license renewed. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't great.
The Wholesome Show is me, Will Grant, him, Rod Lamberts, brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science.